WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. A busy Tuesday night, and of course, Caps victorious up in New York over the Rangers. Wizards with a very exciting victory over the best team on the planet, the Golden State Warriors, and Steph Curry missing a big three at the end of that game. But before all of that, the Terps gave us a little scare for 20 minutes, but then came on pretty strong in the early moments of the second half to defeat Rutgers. Luke Jones is here to talk all things Terps, as there's just one more game left. And Luke, it's been a pretty quick season, man. We're going to be watching the Big Ten tournament next weekend down in D.C., you and I, but at least for one night, the Terps got back on the right side of the track here in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and this is one they absolutely had to have, no questions asked. Rutgers, for all the talk that, they're competitive and they play a lot of close games, you're still talking about a team that was 2-14 in the Big Ten entering Tuesday night. And, the first half, Maryland had a lot of foul trouble, had, I believe it was 4 guys with 2 fouls apiece.
Well, so, Dodd started right away, right?
Yeah, Dodd. Certainly you go down the list: Justin Jackson, Kevin Herter. I believe Yvonne Bender had 2 as well. I mean, it was a little hairy there. You're starting to wonder. Okay, just get to halftime at least. Just get yourselves in position where you get to intermission and no one has 3 fouls. They were able to do that, and then in the second half, you saw a Maryland team that looked much more like the Maryland team we've seen for the better part of the first 3 months of the season.
Or as I call them, the 20-2 Maryland team.
Yeah, exactly. And, a 20-point win over Rutgers is nothing to say, that's not enough evidence to proclaim the Terps as, quote, fixed, or that everything's fine, or that, that they're going to just continue to go on their way now. But at the very least, you don't feel any worse than what happened with the 3-game losing streak. And in that second half, you saw a very balanced effort. I mean, no one had more than 11 points in the final box score. Melo Trimble led the way with 11, but you just saw a balanced effort, and I think you saw a more confident team that was having fun. You could see from about the 10-minute mark of the Wisconsin game, where they played so well in the first half, and then they just did not play well in the second half at all. From that point until obviously the Iowa game, you just saw a team that was tight. At times, it kind of looked like they were going through the motions, just not having much fun out there. There wasn't a lot of positive energy out there, and you saw that return on Tuesday night in the second half especially. So that was good to see. Again, it's not a signature win. It's not an impressive win whatsoever, but it was a win that Maryland much needed to have given the circumstances of the last couple weeks.
All right, so, one by one, let's start with Trimble trying to get back onto his game. Certainly the assist game was there. Didn't fill it up against a bad team. Matter of fact, I mean, from a minute standpoint in this game, it almost felt like, especially once you got the lead, Turgeon wanted to get everybody into double digit, man. I mean, everybody played a little bit on Tuesday night. Probably not a bad thing if they're thinking about playing 3 days in a row next weekend, right?
Yeah, we even saw Dion Wiley get 11 minutes, which, he's dealt with sickness, back issues. I mean, it's just been a complete lost year for him after missing all of last year with the knee. So, they tried to get him involved. This team's going to have to use its depth. I mean, they can go 10 deep. They clearly are missing Michael Tchaikovsky. That's going to affect them in the front court. I think whether you're talking the Big Ten tournament or the NCAA tournament, they're going to be at the mercy of matchups. I mean, if they're playing teams that have back to the basket post kind of players, they're going to struggle with that.
Well, they're going to have to hit shots, period, because they're not going to get rebounds.
Right. I mean, but that's just they don't have the guys to match up that way. I mean, DeMonte Dodd certainly does nice things. Yvonne Bender, I thought, played a really nice game on Tuesday night, and he's been, for as much as they miss Tchaikovsky, Bender's had his moments here over the last couple weeks.
Well, he got more minutes than Dodd because Dodd got in foul trouble early.
Yeah.
And late, by the way.
But at the same time, if you have a dominant post player that he has to defend, that's not going to be a good result typically. So, it's very clear Maryland has a certain style they're going to have to play. They're not very big. Mark Turgeon even acknowledged this, in recent games, post-game press conferences, and said, "Look, we don't have a whole lot of size. We have to make shots. We have to play D. We have to box out and rebound the best we can." And certainly, we've seen Maryland have their issues with rebounding at various points this season. But the key for them is they have to make shots. And it came down to it. Maryland 8 for 20 from beyond the arc. I mean, 40%. It's not unbelievable, but it's better than they've been here in recent games, and it's just very clear this Maryland team has to hit 3-point shots. I mean, that's just the way they're built. They have that, and then dribble penetration, and then either kick it out or hit Dodd or Bender cutting to the basket. I mean, that's the way they have to operate at this point in time. I don't think that's going to change. It's just a matter of getting themselves back on track mentally. They played much better defense, even in the first half. I mean, Rutgers, some of those shots they were hitting, a couple of them off-balance jump shots, and I wasn't really, it wasn't as though I was terribly concerned with how Maryland was playing in the first half. Rutgers was hitting some shots then, but in the second half, Maryland's defense really clamped down, and Rutgers played like Rutgers. So, that combination led to the Terps pulling away, but, it's just... it's very clear what this Maryland team has to do. They hadn't been doing it the last couple of weeks. Some of that had been because of some competition, because Wisconsin did play well. Minnesota has played well here over the last month or so. So, if you're not playing at the top of your game, teams like that are going to beat you. But, the way they played against Iowa, certainly no excuse for that, and there was going to be no excuse whatsoever. You had to go to Rutgers and get the win Tuesday night, and the Terps were able to do that.
All right, we're trying to figure out this bracketing, right, for next weekend and where the Terps would be, what time they would play, who they would play, all of that kind of stuff. I think the Big Ten tournament next week, and I've talked to people this week, on the basketball space, I think it's going to really be a lot of fun. I mean, it's a really wide-open tournament. We haven't seen this sort of thing. I know the ACC tournament a decade ago came down and played in D.C. I was down there for a little bit of that. I think these teams are really going to travel well. I think this is going to, between the cherry blossoms, if you are an alum from any of these schools, this is a really sexy trip, I think, to come in, and maybe even sexier next year when they're going to do this thing at Madison Square Garden a week earlier, which is weird, right?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how these teams travel. I mean, this is something that, we've talked about this a lot since Maryland joined the Big Ten, since the news that they were going to join the Big Ten several years ago. And, it's pretty clear that D.C. isn't exactly, right in the heart of most Big Ten country, but, I think there's a lot of appeal to make that trip. So
I think those people have been to Chicago and Indianapolis 100 times, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's the same thing with the ACC tournament that people had been to, to Greensboro year after year after year. It felt
if you have a favorite bar in Greensboro, you're probably going too much.
Yeah, pretty much. But as far as the tournament itself, Purdue's leading the way right now. They have the best player in the conference in Caleb Swanigan. I think I feel pretty strong in saying that. This is a guy who's National Player of the Year consideration at least. So it's hard not to say that they're not the favorite, but at the same time, it's not as though they've run away with this thing. They're sitting at 13-4. Wisconsin has 5 losses. Maryland and Minnesota and Michigan State each have 6 losses. So it's going to be fascinating. The big thing for Maryland is going to be they need to get a win against Michigan State this weekend to try to keep that double bye. That's just going to be crucial.
Well, they're cruising for the 3 seed, right? That would be ideal. Purdue will be the 1, Wisconsin would be the 2, Maryland would be the 3 seed, correct?
Yeah. That's what you're looking for.
If they're the 3 seed, they play the late game on Friday night. They would play at like 10 o'clock at night on Friday night. If they are the 4 seed, they would play the late afternoon game, which would probably look like around 2:30, 3 o'clock on that Friday. So just for folks out there trying to figure out where they're going to be, they're clearly not going to be the 1 seed. That's the early game on Friday. The 2 seed is the early evening game on Friday as well. So, just for folks thinking about going down there. I know I've had a lot of people talk about that. I feel some energy for the tournament locally here, and I know Maryland wants to represent. Hey, there were a lot of Maryland fans in Rutgers on Tuesday night because of the population around New York and I guess the excitement around the team at this point. I'm excited about the Terps. I'm excited to see what they're going to do.
Yeah, and you make an interesting point. It's not just how other teams are going to travel to D.C. You want Maryland to put on a nice show there. You want to show the Big Ten that depending on when the future of the tournament, and like you said, it's going to be in New York here in the coming years. But you want to show that that's a good venue and that Maryland's going to get a nice nice home court advantage there. You want to see that, and you want the Terps to have a nice showing. They get the double bye. You kind of get that old. I'm talking old school ACC tournament format where you're going to play 3 games in 3 days. It's a challenge, no doubt, but way better than trying to play 4 games in 4 days. So, it's crucial for Maryland to take care of business against Michigan State. I mean, the Spartans clearly not one of their best teams, but lo and behold, for all the hand-wringing as far as their struggles, they still find themselves right there as far as in position to make the tournament. And, hey, Tom Izzo in March, you never want to count him out. But
I bet they're playing the second weekend. You know what I mean? If they get into the tournament, they're a dangerous team. I think, all year long. They've been playing their best basketball the last couple of weeks. Now, they're a different team on the road than at home.
Right. I don't know if I'd bet on it, but I certainly wouldn't be shocked. I mean, this isn't Izzo's best team, but they always find a way. And as much as that's become such a cliche, it doesn't make it any less true. I mean, that's just a team that you just expect, regardless of what players they lose, whether it's losing Denzel Valentine, guys like that over the years, to graduation or to the NBA, and you say, oh, what's going to happen to them? Well, they might not be a top 5 team, but they're going to be there, and that's kind of where they are right now. So, I mean, Maryland's going to have their hands full this weekend. There's no doubt, but plenty to play for, and absolutely want to get another win. I mean, the Rutgers win Tuesday night. That to me seals any real significant concern about is there any way the Terps could miss the tournament. I didn't see it. I said that to you a couple days ago when we talked about it, but now you're talking about wanting to build some momentum. You're wanting to try to get the best possible seed you can get. Can Maryland get to that, say, 6 seed, for example? Or, if they lose a couple more games here, they could be looking at a 7, an 8, a 9 seed, somewhere like that.
Well, they can only lose a couple more, right? The worst they can be is 23-9, right? If they lose to Michigan State and
you want to at least have a couple more wins on your resume. That's the thing. Take care of business against Michigan State. At least get to the semis in the Big Ten tournament. At least win 1 game after you have the double bye. I'm not saying that's a wild success, just getting to the semis, but it's at least respectable. It's not as though saying, wow, this team really completely collapsed.
Well, if you think of the kinds of teams they're going to see next week, I mean, they're going to see Indiana or Nebraska or Ohio State or Northwest. None of these games are easy. We've seen them all, and I guess look, Indiana came into this thing, and we thought they were a team that could win 25 games this year. They've been a massive disappointment, but I still don't want to see them next Friday night.
Well, I mean, it just comes down to, it's. I don't want to say it's like the old ACC, but you do have some teams in this conference right now that you still don't want to sleep on. Look at Nebraska, for example. I mean, look what happened to the Terps against them playing at home, no less. So you do have some teams that, even though record-wise don't look very impressive, you got to watch out for. I mean, Iowa, perfect example there. I wouldn't expect the Terps to get blown out by them again. You would certainly hope not, but that's a team that showed that if you're not at the top of your game, they can take it to you, and the Terps saw that last weekend.
Well, another point is your matchup point. I mean, they don't match up well against some of these big country teams, quite frankly, right?
I mean, Maryland's going to have to make shots. I mean, it's very simple. It sounds so, such a layman thing to say, but it's the truth. I mean, this team relies on its outside shooting, and it was nice to see some of that come back, but they need to get Justin Jackson on track. Another pretty quiet night for him overall, though did have 8 rebounds. They need to get Herter back on track, and he hit some shots in the second half against Rutgers. Anthony Cowan looked really good in the first half against Rutgers. They need that. It can't just be Trimble, although Trimble certainly needs to pick it up with his struggles over the last few games after having those unbelievable performances at Northwestern and Wisconsin. But they got to have some. They have to be able to hit shots from beyond the arc. They need to play good defense. They need to at least hold their own in the rebounding department. And I mean that's the formula for this team to try to win games. And it is going to be dependent on some matchups, whether talking Big Ten or the NCAA tournament. But I think even with all their struggles, and Mark Turgeon uses this line a lot, they are still 23-7. They are still 11-6 in the Big Ten, and that's a lot better than anyone would have expected. It's just now you want to see them climb out of this February hole that they dug for themselves and get back to playing the kind of basketball we saw more so in November, December, and January.
He is Luke Jones. You can follow his journey out on Twitter at Baltimore Luke, as well as at WNST. And, of course, all the news on the Ravens and the Orioles in spring training. And we'll get back into some baseball conversation with Luke a little later on before the weekend as well. Maryland, onward, upward, Michigan State on Saturday, senior day, 2 o'clock down at, I said Cole the other day. I meant Xfinity. Trust me on that. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. We're also out in the Bay at Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device. Just download that TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear. Our morning newspaper ships to you at 7 a.m. every morning, all courtesy of our friends at Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Just sign up at WNST.net, subscribe, and you'll get it every morning at 7 a.m. It includes all of Luke's blogs, insights, and activities. He wrote about the Ravens as well this week. We got the Combine going on. I got Caps. I got Wizards. I got Terps. I got tons of stuff going on around here, including that Big Ten tournament next week. Don't forget to hold the calendar on March the 20th, Monday night. Head coach Barry Trotz is going to rock his red up here in Baltimore with us at WNST. We're going to have a big announcement on that early next week as well as for the time and the location, but it is the evening of March the 20th. Also, our London trip on sale under the Road Trips tab at WNST.net. We're waiting on the NFL schedule next month. We'll have Green Bay, Nashville, Oakland, and others as well. Plenty of stuff going on around here. Stayed at home this week. Skipped Indianapolis in the Combine after traveling the world the last month. Feels good to be home. Feels good to be back here in the cockpit. We do broadcast live on Facebook Live as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. I'm out on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, anywhere the internet is served. I am Nestor. This is WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.